up out my forest, they looked into my room. I was only 4 years old, I didn't know what to do. I was playing muscle men with a friend, I think the dude was named Vernon. He saw the M16s and stepped away from the curtains, and they kicked in the door. This is the DEA. They saw my father, and then they fucked up his face, and they cruised up the stairs with their M16s. They busted into my room and scared the fuck out of me. I saw my mama, I said, what the fuck's happening? She said, we're busted. I said, what the fuck does that mean? She said, for growing the weed under the basement floor. I said, the plant that dad smoked. She said, but there's more. They're gonna take up our house, they're gonna take all your toys, they're gonna take away data, they're gonna put them in bars, they're gonna take all our money, they're gonna take all your cake. The next day was my birthday, I'm not being fake. These motherfuckers, they're called the DEA, they're called the CIA, they're called the NSA, and today they listen to everything that you say, but you don't give a fuck, you just go about your day. They keep a file on everyone and we pretend that we're dumb. We sell all our metadata, it's worth more than a sum, but they don't give us back none because they know that we're numb. We got some stupid motherfuckers that just want to be safe, and they'll give up their freedoms, man, they'll give up their say. They'll spend $1 million on education just to join up the slaves. You're not American.
You're not American if you're not doing anything about them listening. Well, it's not like there's much you can do. They're listening through your car, they're listening through your TV, they're listening through this computer right now, the phone in your pocket, the earbuds in your ears, and they're filing it all away to come and take you away sometime. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be the next day, it may not be the week after that or the month after that, but one day they will find something on you and they will come and take you away, and they will take all your shit and everyone you love, and they'll stick you somewhere.
In a boxcar.
In a boxcar and in a NASCAR, and then they will let you race at high speeds around the track as fast as you can. And then if you win, they'll give you millions of dollars and allow you to join the elite. Okay, I'm losing my mind. Welcome, brave thinkers, to the electrifying realm of dangerous thoughts. Ooh. Here we plunge into the waters of turbulent controversy, exploring untamed territories and subjects often deemed too risky to talk about. But fear not, for this is a fearless sanctuary. We say what the fuck we want. We fear no topic, no question, no concept. Each night we unravel the strands of what society deems perilous, inviting you and you and you and you and you and you and you to our mission to delve deeper, to challenge assumptions, to embolden discourse, conversation. And guess what? You're not a mere spectator. You're an integral part of this riveting expedition down the fucking whitewater rapids of the DT family. Click on that Discord link. You can also go to @SubscriptPirate if you want to talk to us. So buckle up, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness. And the labyrinth of dangerous thoughts, blah, blah, blah. Here we are. It's episode, I don't know what we're on.
Like 40, man.
Episode 40?
Yeah.
Really? It seems like we've done so many more than 40. But tonight we have a really cool guest. We have Christopher Jordan on the program. I'm going to read you a little bit of, well, actually, no. Let's just do what we usually do. What happened this week, Mala? What happened this week of importance that you feel like you want to talk about?
We've had this trial going on up here in Toronto for a gentleman by the name of Umar Zamir.
Okay, nobody cares about Canada. Next.
I don't know. I'm surrounded by Canada.
I'm kidding. Go ahead. Tell me about Umar. So
what's going on in your world, Monty?
No. Tell me about Umar. Tell me about the trial. Yeah.
So it was a total setup. They were looking for this guy on July 2nd, 2021, downtown Toronto. A guy was going around. He stabbed like 1 or 2 people. I don't recall, because it all kind of got washed out of the news because of what happened with Mr. Zamir. So this poor guy, he's in the underground. He's with his pregnant wife and his like young son, who I think at the time was maybe 5 years old. And they're getting in their car when these police in like undercover clothes come up to their car, and they're pounding on the hood and they're yelling at him and they're telling him to stop and get out. They're looking for a lone knifer. So,
I'm saying hi to all the people saying hi.
my guys,
Lone knifer.
yeah, and yet they're picking on this dude and his wife.
Oh, so the Samir's not the knifer, but they think they got him.
Like totally profiled him just because he was of the background that they were looking for.
He's Arab.
Yes.
Yeah.
And apparently he's a very nice man.
And all Arabs with a family and a single child love stabbing people.
Oh yeah, right? That
So what
mentality.
So what's going on? Did they
He ran over and killed one of the officers. And it was totally unintentional. He didn't know they were police. They didn't follow procedure. They didn't properly identify themselves because they're in plain clothes, right? They're undercovers.
Oh, undercovers. Okay, so he thinks he's getting robbed or something.
Well, just the week before that was that guy out in Vancouver who ran over the family of four because they were Muslim. I'm sorry. It was London, Ontario, not Vancouver. My apologies.
Man, you fuck up all the time, Mola. Every time you come on to guest host, you blow it. You just blow it.
I got a fact.
So what happened to Zumir?
He was
Izmir. Izmir was acquitted this morning?
He was acquitted this morning. So
that's really cool. The justice system works in Canada. One place in the world that maybe it works. So Tyson ditched us for something completely unimportant, by the way. Tyson is our usual host. Mala is filling in, thank God, because I can't speak for an hour. Well, I could, but it'd be really boring. And he's just lollygagging around, missing the most important YouTube show on earth because of what basically amounts to going down to the pub with his mom to have a cold one. But we forgive him, and we hope that his final toast with his mother does him well and helps heal his heart. We'll be back. He'll be back with us next week. But this week, Malamora Ganian Gorgamain is filling in again as our host and couldn't be more excited. She couldn't be more excited. No, and I couldn't be more excited to have her. Sorry.
We're all excited.
But thank God this week I don't have to look and listen to Tyson with his big hickory smoked head and Harvard vernacular constantly spewing from his hole. It'll be nice to have a co-host again from the weaker sex. All right. So, Mala, I love you. I'm just having a bit of fun bashing your species, spouting a little misogynistic bullshit just to show the misogynists, the real misogynists out there, how stupid you freaking sound. Do you get that? Do you get that? Comedians, like, they get on stage and they make jokes about this kind of shit, and people don't get the layer of, hey, I'm just kidding in between. I know you're much smarter than me. I know you're much more peaceful than me. You have so much over the feminine species has so much over us, and I don't understand it. I don't understand why you guys don't run the world. I don't understand why there's not more female presidents. I don't know why there's never been a female president, at least from what I know in history of the United States of America. Has there?
No.
Not in the U.S.
I do want to say this, though, some good news. That Mala, when she's not co-hosting for Tyson, she will be helping us coordinate our show. So we will have a woman keeping all of us
in
line.
Well, Katie's around too, but
thank God Katie's helping too.
Katie's going to be writing for us.
She just released
our
her
website
today.
I always tell people that if you want to change this country, and I've said this for the last few weeks, every time that you go into the ballot box, if you vote, and you should vote, you stupid fuckers. If you don't vote, you're so dumb. But you should go in and vote, and you should vote for women and independence. And if you're lucky enough, vote for women independence. Just go down your ballot, find all the women independents in your district, in your state, in your country, and vote for them all. And then go back and vote for all the women. And then I think our country would be a much better place.
I'm going to get for the firing squad here, but Vote Green Party.
Yeah, vote Green Party. Green Party's cool, man. You know, I worked for Jack Herer for a long time, and Jack Herer still has a weed named after him. Jack Herer wrote The Emperor Wears No Clothes, Hemp and the Marijuana Conspiracy. And it's a wonderful book. If you haven't read it, you should read it. I'm all about the Green Party. They're cool folks. I don't know exactly what they do, like in Israel or you know, with the Israel situation. Would they just fly over and just gas it with a bunch of fucking high quality weed smoke and edibles and see if people stopped fighting?
But they might come for their recyclables.
Like recyclable bomb parts?
Everything they could recycle.
Organs, genocide. I mean, there's a lot of organs over there.
That would go towards like hospitals and organ donation centers and the like.
All right, on to quotes of golden truth. This is a new portion of Dangerous Thoughts. Quotes of golden truth. Here we go. The idea is I spew the quote and then you guess who said it. Ready?
Ready.
He who lives on hope dies farting.
Manu said that.
Wasn't mine.
Well,
I wish it was mine. I love it, but it's not mine.
I'm kidding. I really have no idea.
Ben Franklin said
really?
That. Yeah, because if you live on hope, you got nothing going for you. You need action. You need, you know,
did the fart part
more than just hope. He who lives on hope dies farting. I also think he's the guy that said shit in one hand, hope in the other, see which one fills up first.
That would make sense because he was a bit of an atheist who went to church to pick up women.
All of our founding fathers were atheists for the most part.
John Adams was pretty like into his belief system.
Yeah, well, he had his thumb up his butt the whole time.
And slaves.
Why is it that every time somebody plays John Adams, it's like, look, I love that actor that played him in the most recent one.
Have you seen the version of 1776 with Brent Spiner? That was amazing.
Did he play Data in 1776?
He played Thomas Jefferson, and he did it amazingly.
Data is Thomas Jefferson. And he was really good. I always thought Thomas Jefferson should be played by Michael Douglas.
He would make... Honestly, he's actually doing a Ben Franklin series right now, and he really fits the role of Ben Franklin better than I thought he would.
Oh, you know who should play Ben Franklin? The guy who played John Adams.
We're just gonna switch them all up.
Well, truthfully, the guy who played John Adams, Walleye, from the recent Oscar movie. Oh, come on. He's hideously ugly and a wonderful actor and funny, and that's why he gets all his roles.
Is it Willem Dafoe?
No, also hideously ugly and wonderfully talented.
I would very
squash face. He looks exactly like Ben Franklin, and he played John Adams. Anyway, whatever. The other thing that happened this week is a $1 billion congressional death package. I couldn't believe that they passed that thing. $28 billion to genocidal Israel. And then 90 something, well, not 90, but some incredible 70 billion to the Ukraine. I personally am infuriated by these things. I don't want another dollar of my tax money, first of all, ever to be taken away from my labor or my home or my... I could handle a sales tax, like a small sales tax. I think a 10% flat sales tax just on everything everybody buys should support the government and let the government do its thing. But, I don't want any more of, like, not another penny spent in my name on murder. I hate this. I hate war. I hate fucking, yeah, all the way back to, like, you know, you could argue that World War II was the good war or whatever.
If there is something.
Yeah. But then Americans, man, we've done Vietnam and Korea and El Salvador and all these secret CIA wars and Afghanistan and Iraq and blah, 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 all in the name of blowing people up. And now we want to send 100 billion of our taxpayers' dollars to the fucking Ukraine on the other side of the fucking world.
War drives the economy.
War drives the economy. Sure.
Yeah, war drives the economy, but it doesn't have to.
Doesn't.
As a people, we could get together and we could just invest our tax dollars or our actual dollars on science without fighting wars to create better science. We don't need the wars to create the better science. We just need to put the money into the science. It's ridiculous.
All four of the leaders just duking it out themselves.
The last thing I have here is yeah, I liked that from last week. Just have the actual leaders have a fucking bare knuckle boxing match. Or we could have we could make it even more fun. We could have our 10 best from America and the 10 best from whoever we're fighting, and it would be like a 5 out of 6 or whatever, Tournament
style.
Lastly, Tyson sent me a birthday present, a bottle of Hennessy. It's so delicious and special. Thank you so much, Tyson. I fucked your sister. All right. Okay. Now, Tyson doesn't have a sister, and I certainly hope he does. Well, I take that back. This week we have Chris Jordan on, and I'm going to read you Chris Jordan's bio because this dude is an interesting guy. Chris Jordan composes instrumental music incorporating everything from frequencies from within our solar system to binaural beats. I don't know how to say that, but he'll explain it to me. And even brainwave frequencies. His soothing and calming music is designed to help listeners relax, and each track is designed to be used as a tool for meditation and to help listeners reach deeper levels of relaxation and self-exploration. Creating music and soundscapes, Chris's unique compositions have been used as background music for meditation albums, corporate events, as well as unique series of meditation videos. With his compositions ranging from meditation and frequency therapy to the avant-garde and even electronic lo-fi in his this is what I was supposed to do. Christopher also hosts an amazing show called The Curious Realm, if you haven't checked it out. The links are in the description below, but I also let Chris give out all the places where you can find his program, which explores interesting and unique topics. These suck. Related to science, technology, history, and culture. This is a long bio, but I want to get on with Chris right now because I have a bunch of questions for him. I'm actually really interested in this, the idea of frequencies and waves. So let's bring on Mr. Christopher Jordan.
Hey guys, how you doing?
What's happening, man?
Nothing much. Glad to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thanks for coming on. I'm thrilled to have you.
Absolutely.
So one of the albums you did is called Music for Targeted Minds, and it's an hour-long composition of music set to brainwaves and binaural beats, formulated to help those suffering from targeting technologies and weaponry known as targeted individuals. What do you mean by this? What is a targeted technology and targeted individuals?
For many decades now, there have been thousands of people across the globe who have reported being what is known as a targeted individual. These people experience everything from gang stalking to people breaking into their homes while they're asleep, while they're gone, surveillance devices being found, and it goes all the way to what we now know as Havana syndrome, which not only U.S. diplomats but Canadian diplomats have been targeted by. To the point that they basically traced it down to probably a form of microwave technology that's being used.
What syndrome?
Havana syndrome.
Okay.
This first came into the news in probably about 2015, 2016 were the first cases coming out of Havana, Cuba, where U.S. diplomats were complaining of nausea, headaches, the feeling of being watched, all kinds of really interesting neurological symptomology, things that would basically be used for like psychic driving, that kind of stuff, things that are used to break individuals. And it's now been fully classified as a medical issue. They have found white tissue brain damage in many of these individuals. A lot of people have been put under hush orders, have been put under gag orders. You hear a lot more from the Canadian people and the Canadian victims from the Canadian government because they were targeted as well.
Really? Mala, you've heard of this before?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I've been completely out of the loop.
Yeah. So there, and what's funny is that the Havana syndrome thing is a new revelation in this world, but there are people like Dr. John Hall, people like Dr. Robert Duncan, who for decades have been blowing the whistle on this and saying like, no, there are fully technologies. Like, I'm not sure what your age is. I'm going on 49 this year.
Yeah, we're all old.
And if you remember the first Gulf War, the stories of the Iraqi soldiers, the story of the platoon that just laid their weapons down because they all heard the voice of Allah say to surrender, voice to skull technologies, things like that we actively have. Like, we brag about them. There are numerous articles. You can look it up on Wired magazine about the Chinese laser weapon that vibrates your brain.
Oh, I've heard of this thing. Yeah.
Our brain, our skull is basically a resonant chamber, and our brain is basically a biological transducer. So you can literally make somebody's brain vibrate inside of their skull.
I've heard of all these sound weapons that we have, and basically sound is a frequency of some sort that can people can actually. We have these mega weapons that create so much of a frequency that they can actually blow your eardrums and all sorts of ugly shit.
Yeah.
No, I love so, but I've always wondered. See, all right. I don't want to fuck it, man. This is dangerous stuff.
No.
About what I want to talk about.
Well, I mean, it's some hard technology and a really hard topic to talk about because, like I say on my show regularly, this is one of those that sadly it will take legislation because make no mistake, given the opportunity, they will skin you in your sleep.
Yeah.
All day long, whether it comes to surveillance, what have you, they will skin you in your sleep. They will sell every bit of your metadata out from underneath you. You're lucky that they aren't just recording everything all. Oh wait, they are.
They are, yeah. And
they are.
People don't
yeah,
give
there was a whole
fuck.
slide presentation about it.
And none of us care. And I remember just like, back in 9/11 when they were interviewing people and they were going, as long as we're safe, it's okay if you just spy on all the American people, as long as I feel a little safer. It seems like these targeted technologies were used against people back then, because I was sitting around going, no, it's not okay. Yeah. Big Brother, I read a book in high school that warned me about this. We're living in it. And I also wonder about, this is what I wonder about a lot, and it's all these mass shootings in the country. And I know that, for a very long time, we've been looking into brain control, mind control, all the way back to 1940, late 40s, early 50s. I forget the CIA program that MK Ultra. I don't think MK Ultra has ever finished.
Project Artichoke before that became MK Ultra, went on to other programs afterward, went on to even Operation Mockingbird, which was okay, let's forget putting things in the water. All we have to do is embed people with the media. And push our paradigm that way.
And there's all these crazy people that are flipping their switch and actually doing these mass shootings daily.
Oh, sure.
So I'm wondering, like, did MK Ultra get to the point where they can just flip anybody's switch at any time they want to?
Almost.
And that is some of the danger, quite honestly, is that when it comes to a lot of this technology, it is not that hard to psychically drive someone. It is not that. I mean, a really crude example is what they did to the Branch Davidians. What we did to Panama and trying to get rid of Noriega, where we just put up huge speakers and blasted them with music day in, day out, day in. Next to waterboarding. Like the next step is literally putting a piece of cloth over your face after 3 days of not sleeping and pouring water over it and asking you questions. Like that's the next part.
I fucking love Metallica, but if you blasted that shit for 2 months outside my house, I'd walk out. I don't know how those Branch Davidians were so strong not to leave the compound.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you ever watched the videos,
I don't think they could have left the compound.
Could shred, bro.
David
Koresh
was the shit.
So it was not that tough for him to sit there and listen to whammy bar rock and roll. He was a whammy bar rock and roll dude. Yeah. Like that's what he jammed.
Yeah. My personal opinion is anybody that did try to actually get out after they lit the fire and shit were all shot. I've seen all those.
Oh, that right down the road from my house. My senior year of high school. And,
wow, you lived in Waco?
No. I lived in Houston. Just about an hour and a half away from where that happened. And it was tough. And the thing is, these technologies can be used to psychically drive people. We have laws in America against subliminal advertising because it works so well.
Yeah.
Because it's proven to work so well. Because like they have metrics showing if you flash an image of drink Coke during Let's Go Out to the Lobby, you sell more Coke, not more Pepsi, more Coke.
It was in the 80s.
So
that's where they kind of like had to create all the laws was in the 80s when it was really big in the marketing. World.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And that's kind of honestly, where I found this.
I'm a Hollywood guy, and I know the power of the CIA in Hollywood. So, the different things that they put in movies to bend us this way and that way.
And the funny thing is, what I use now, earlier before the show, while you were out, Manu, Mala and I were talking, and she was asking me how I came across. How did I learn about this to begin with? I was fascinated with subliminal psychology and started deeply studying subliminal advertising, subliminal psychology, things like that. And that's where I came across the work of the Monroe Institute and numerous other. That's the institute that I couldn't remember a while ago, Mala. You see how once I'm in it, it just flows. But the Monroe Institute is where I really found the work of binaural beats. And along with that, found things like the work of Linsfeld, where it's like putting yourself in a pair of Linsfeld goggles, where it's basically like you're putting on soundproof headphones to subtract audio stimuli, and the goggles are just a blue field. So whatever light you have going on, it's just blue. And eventually, with the subtraction of stimuli, and only provided that blue field, your brain will begin to hallucinate. You will begin to see geometric shapes. You'll begin to see all kinds of things. And this kind of shows you the fact that like your brain is a pattern machine. It's looking for input, and when not given input, it will just make up input because it needs input. Unless even when it's asleep, it needs input. That's why you're dreaming.
Yeah, REM cycles and all that.
It constantly needs that input, and we live half of our life in a state of hypnosis. We don't think to breathe. We autonomically breathe. Once you learn to walk, you don't even have to think to walk. You just have to think refrigerator, beer, and you get up and you walk. Yeah. You know, you don't think about half of the driving you do. You're in a state of road hypnosis. You know the route to go to work. You know the route to your favorite shopping mall, to your favorite shopping center, to your favorite corner store. You don't have to think about those things. You're in a state of rote habit and hypnosis to get there. So your brain naturally wants to live in this. And that's basically
that's actually really wild how often
Yeah.
we do kind of sleepwalk
Yeah.
to different places.
Absolutely. 3/4 of your life is spent in a state, unless you are reacting to something or actively creating. You are almost in a state of hypnosis going through your pattern.
Especially with this new demon technology, people are spending 9 to 11 hours on their cell phones.
You know,
every day.
it's interesting. Go ahead, Mala.
Well, Walter John Kilmer wrote The Human Atmosphere, which was very much centered around what you're discussing right now.
Yeah.
And he wrote that in 1923.
Yeah.
And I just find that information very interesting.
As an audio video engineer for a living, one of the things that I try to break down to people, especially whenever you start talking about the way just subliminals. And I'm not saying it works this way because we have laws against subliminals now. But if you start thinking about it, our brain sees, our eyes naturally see between 24 to 30 frames per second. That's why film and animation is in that frame rate. It's like a suspension of disbelief. It's like the image is actually happening in front of us. Now you subtract one of those frames, put in something else, a la, the guy in Fight Club, put in whatever image you want. Your brain will decode and see that one flash frame image, whether you consciously saw it or not. Your brain saw it, and your brain decoded it and stuck it somewhere. Now, start looking at things in the world of high def, and the idea of, okay, 60 cycles per second is the flash rate of, like fluorescent light bulbs. That's where we start getting headaches from lights. That's where we start getting tired at the office more regularly. When you start talking about HD television, that's the refresh rate. That means twice as many hypnotic images can be put in per second. Oh, wait, let's go full HD and go 120 hertz, which is now 4 times as many, which means you fall into a hypnotic state 4 times as fast watching that screen. You now fall into that zombified state. They called it an idiot box because, yes, after so long of watching 30 frames per second, your brain will cue into that and just slow down.
They also call everything on the TV programming because it actually
It's a
is
program. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you see the broadcast clock, that program slice is actually a lot bigger, and that's the commercial break.
Yes.
Because that's what's being paid for, not what you're trying to watch.
And usually when you're watching something like the Super Bowl that the entire country is watching, it is join the military, go to the bank, buy some beer. Anyway.
The plus side is you can deprogram a lot of this. You can go against a lot of that by using the exact same technologies, even the fact of using bone vibration headphones, bone conducting headphones instead of normal headphones.
What are bone conducting headphones?
Bone conduction headphones are things like these right here. These are bone conducting headphones. They basically fit over your ears, and instead of fitting inside your ears like this or over your ears, where there's an actual driver, a magnet that could be hijacked by another high frequency technology. This basically vibrates your jawbone, which activates the cochlea inside your ear.
What's a cochlea?
The cochlea is the little snail shape inside of your ear that translates sound through the motion of bones, and they're attached to your eardrum, picks up sound, vibrates the bones, sends it through your cochlea, which then translates it to your brain. So
the cartilage surrounds.
So
what is the point of those?
The point of this is that you do not need your eardrum to hear at that point. Even if you had a ruptured eardrum, you could hear the music because you would be vibrating the parts of your inner ear. And your jawbone, which is connected to that, basically vibrating your skull to get transduction to there instead of using your actual ear.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about these albums. The music for the targeted minds, which is what we started talking about when we got to targeted individuals, and you told us about those things. You incorporate earth frequencies as well as frequencies to help counteract brain fog. The regular use of this trick will help users find more restful sleep and peaceful state of mind. Where do you go get music for the targeted mind? Apple Music?
You can
Spotify,
find it. Yeah, just about anywhere music is available, you can find it. It's available all over the place. It's available on Bandcamp. It's available on my website, artofchristopherjordan.com, all that kind of good stuff.
Artofchristopherjordan.com. Does it have all your albums on there?
It does. It does.
Because a couple of these other albums, well, the first one, I would love to hear music for targeted minds because I feel like I'm in a constant brain fog.
We are.
I feel like I'm totally, I feel like something out there is keeping me stupid. And I have to really fight hard to be an artist, to write music, to do anything that I want to do to change the status quo in any way, shape, or form. I have real trouble with it, and it doesn't feel like it did when I was 30. It feels like I'm really getting clouded lately.
A lot of that, and the thing is, the funny thing is, once again, our brains are pattern machines, and we are programmed not only from birth, but for millennia for negative reinforcement to teach us things. Fire is hot. It burns you. Don't touch it. You'll learn that 10 times faster than you will how to build a fire to make your food warm and savory.
That's why when I want to remember something, like when I put my keys somewhere, I picture a snake trying to bite me. And I go, oh! And then I remember where my keys are.
You'll always remember where the snake is and where to avoid. So that's where your keys are. Yeah. Absolutely. And, but the thing is, we can use that. We can use that to our advantage as well. This is how special forces people tap into that. This is the source of remote viewing. It's the source of so many things. The idea that we are connected integrally to the world around us in that way. And a heightened sense of yourself is great. The problem is we are so inundated with technology and so inundated with quite literally the cooling response of our brain. The fact of if you push the screen and you don't get the response in 2/3 of a second, you're now tapping the screen with impatience.
That serotonin juice is not coming at you.
No, exactly. Yeah. And we live in a state of cortisol injection. Mm-hmm. and fear and panic. That's and being off kilter instead of a state of calm basis.
That's why I call these
of logic
the smartphone tech, the demon tech, especially the social media and all that stuff. Hundreds of thousands of people, hundreds of people at least, trying to get a hold of you at all times. Back when we had answering machines, people could call you. You'd call them back the next day. Don't worry about it. Now we're all forcing each other. Get back to me. Get back to me. Get back to me. Get back to me. Yeah. And everyone's running in this high space world, fast paced world.
Now even a quick thumbs up of an okay is a microaggression.
Right.
They like me. They really like me.
One of the things I bring up on my show all the time is don't forget, it takes invitation, it takes consent for magic to work, for all of that stuff to work. We're all walking around with a scrying mirror in our pocket. We're all sleeping with a scrying mirror in our bedroom. If you have a black screen in your bedroom, you have an uncovered scrying mirror in your bedroom.
Anything will serve.
Chris Jordan is a badass.
And you have quite literally given it your consent.
So
you've given it your consent.
Yes, we have. And I actually lost my phone.
You've consented into the system.
I used to be
you welcomed the vampire in.
Addict to all sorts of narcotics in my 20s.
Same.
And when I went out to Germany, I lost my cell phone, and I was at a Star Trek convention, and I was without my phone for 3 days. And those whole 3 days, I was wondering, oh man, how am I going to get my phone back? And it was almost like fiending for a drug. Mm-hmm. This woman found my phone at the convention while I was up on stage talking, and she delivered my phone to me. And I actually got that big rush of, oh my God, I got my phone back. it's horrible. We really need to do something to control.
Well, and to bring that to another point, and the fact of the way our brains live in this want and the separation of want and need, things like that, is that, you know, when you talk to a hardcore like heroin addict, and when you start looking especially at their brain response, things like that, as they prepare, they are actively getting high during the time that they are preparing their drug. The serotonin release has already started before the drug ever actively enters the system.
Just one more game. I'll play it one more time.
That's it. And that's the thing, though, is that our brains want this pattern. We are ready to fall into it. The example that I give regularly, and the work that the Monroe Institute did with binaural beats, was to the point of syncopation. Entrainment is the principle in physics, and Mythbusters did a great episode on it years ago with the pendulum experiment, where you swing two pendulums opposite directions, and eventually they sync up.
I love,
and then they fall out of sync, and then they sync up again. And our brains want to do the same thing. If you and I, Manu, started walking down the same hall, despite length of stride, we would eventually syncopate step,
and then
fall out.
And go back into sync.
Our brains do the same thing, and much the same way that you can repeat the motion of a bicep and make that bicep stronger, you can repeat the motion of, hey brain, here's what an alpha wave is. Hey brain, here's what an alpha wave is. Alpha waves are good for sleep. Let's start listening to them 30 minutes before sleep. So our brain starts creating them 30 minutes before we need to go to sleep. And the more you do that, the more your brain will literally start creating them. It's absolutely
so. Wait
incredible.
A second. So this stuff the first album about for meditation. No, is that it?
For targeted individuals.
For targeted individuals. Yeah. What do you recommend people listen to this album once a day? Before sleep?
I recommend it before sleep. That is quite honestly one of the biggest complaints that targeted individuals have, is being able to sleep through the night without hearing voices, without feeling presence, without feeling as though they are being, quote, activated, being forced to motion, being forced into action.
Is that what it means in that context?
I'm sorry?
Is that what targeted means in that context?
Yes. Right. It means that as opposed to everybody else in the house, for some reason, you are susceptible. And it's really interesting once you start getting into the research on EEG heterodyning and the fact that, like, yes, you can pick up brain waves at a distance. You do not have to be connected to a machine to make that happen. The machine can pick them up at a distance.
I think remarkable. There's people all over this earth that are probably targeted by this stuff, that are trying. Anybody that has any potential to wake us all up is probably targeted by this stuff. That's just my gut instinct. So the other one is a Meditation for Cosmic Journeys, Volume 1. A collection of music to set brainwaves. And tell us about binaural beats, formulated for practitioners of frequency therapy, meditation, remote viewing, and astral projection. What are binaural beats?
There is pure tone frequency therapy, which is where you get into things like, chakral singing bowls. Let's use this singing bowl that's 528 hertz, and that is the crown chakra. So it'll start generating theta waves that'll bring you to the next, level of thought, that kind of stuff. Binaural beats is basically a way to make your brain create that frequency on its own. So let's say that, we are focusing on 528 hertz is our target frequency. Okay. Basically what happens is if you feed 528 hertz to both ears, you're going to hear 528 hertz. But if you give each ear an offset frequency, give your right ear 529, give the left ear 527, it creates a wobble between the two lobes of your brain. And eventually your brain will go, oh, I see what you're trying to do here. You want 528. and it starts generating 528 for you.
Wow.
So basically, this is how you train your brain to generate that frequency. You can use pure tone frequency therapy to help you, to calm you, all kinds of things. But if you want that mental gym aspect of, I want my brain to start generating this more readily when I need it to, that's where binaural beats comes in. Because that is what trains your brain to start generating it itself, not just keying into it when it hears it, which it will gladly do, just like walking down the hallway. If you play just a 528 hertz tone, like here's a prime example right here is 7.8 hertz.
Why did that chill me out?
Because that is the Schumann resonance. That is the resonance of the earth. That is quite literally the heartbeat of the earth. 7.8 hertz. That is the lower range of a cat purr. That's the range of a cat purr that you feel on your chest whenever they're laying on you instead of hearing it.
That calms you. Yeah.
And that is actively now granted, that is amplified up. The normal range of human hearing is 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So that is a good 13 hertz below the active range of human hearing, which is why that's a range that you feel instead of hear. Now there's
I felt that in my gut and in my soul. And
no. And if you have a subwoofer in your room, like it will literally like tickle you behind your belly button, like right in your solar plexus. And that's just it, is when you start looking at ancient societies, when you start looking at ancient cultures, their initiation places were absolutely tuned to this. One of the albums I am working on right now is Meditation for Sacred Spaces, which is basically, I have gone through and taken spaces like the King's Chamber, and I've been an audio engineer for a living for years and years, things like that. So I've taken spaces like the King's Chamber. And
you went in there and got...
Well, I didn't go in there. No, I wish I could go in there. I haven't been able to go in there, but through just research, I've found like these are the dimensions of the King's Chamber. In the same way that I would ask any club or venue, okay, how long is your longest wall from back wall to the back of stage? Once I know that, I can double that, divide it, multiply it by the speed of sound, and now I have the first resonant frequency of the room. That is where feedback will start on a microphone. Bam, right there. That's the first treble frequency. And that will change depending on the length of every room in the world. So once you have that, you can find like the standing resonant frequency of the room. And like the standing resonant frequency of the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid is 19 hertz, which is oddly enough a frequency that in research is one that people report like feeling a strange presence near them.
Do you have that one readily available?
I am working on that one right now. That is one of the many albums that is in process. So
all right.
You will soon be able to, like literally experience the King's Chamber as though you were in there with the frequencies.
That's awesome. So
it's remarkable to see that like these places were quite obviously designed with that in mind.
So there's delta waves, theta waves. What other? Tell me the difference between all these things.
Each one of them activates different parts of your mind. They all, like gamma waves are higher than 30 hertz. That's what you use while you're focusing, concentrating, things like that. Beta waves are like from 13 to 30. That's
so if you play them while you're writing, they might help you concentrate.
They do help. They will help you concentrate.
They will help you concentrate.
Yes.
All right,
and
cool.
and that's just it. It's one of those, the more you use it, much like any kata and karate, things like that, that are made to focus your energy. The more you do it, the faster into focus you fall, so it's pretty remarkable because once again, we are swathed by energy all day, every day.
This other album that I'm looking at, bandcamp.com. Is that the one that's gone? Sorry. No, /album for Meditation Cosmic Journeys Volume 1.
Yeah.
Designed specifically for infant sleep cycles with the calming, lulling music as well as binaural beats of delta waves. Did you tell me what the delta waves were just now?
Delta waves are for like deep sleep. They are like 1 to 3.9 hertz. So that lulling cat purr that you just felt,
that's the delta.
Imagine that half as slow, half as low. So like real, almost the
man. I gotta get into this stuff
that you get. So
and then explain to me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no worries.
Explain to me the deep, the entrainment and the physics of entrainment. What's entrainment mean?
Well, entrainment is what we were talking about, where your brain wants to fall into pattern, and the fact of using a binaural beat to bring your brain to specifically generate a pattern on its own. That is entrainment. You are basically using your brain and its ability against itself to create a short-circuited result.
So the brain, just like the breath or even the muscle, if you tighten it, can create these things.
Well, and I mean, it's interesting that you say breath because once you get into things, we are, by all 9th grade science, nothing but vibration, Manu.
Oh,
that's all we are. We are 90% empty space.
Reflection, waves and particles that create reality somehow.
Well,
right?
and even the idea, once you start getting into Kabbalah,
or both,
and other mystic tradition,
the spiritual world.
Yeah, no, exactly. The idea that we were breathed into by Creator. So because of that, and because of the fact creation was spoken into being, our speaking carries that same creative vibration. So that's why words hurt. Words hurt more. If I knew you well enough, Manu, I could come up, punch you in the gut and be like, what's up, buddy? How you doing? Let me come up and say something about your wife.
Or something about me. Something about me
about
that
you.
I know to be true, that I am ashamed of. You could just
you can rip people apart
worse
with
than
words.
A punch. Yeah.
Absolutely. Exactly.
And that's why you can make people laugh. That's why you can make people do all sorts of things with just these weird sounds that vibrate from our throats. So also embedded into the background of the Meditation and Cosmic Journeys Volume 1, to promote change and to encourage the brain into deep healing sleep through the principle of entrainment. Oh, I'm sorry, I just went there. Also embedded in is the sound of an inside of a womb. That sound that comforted us for the first part of our lives. Use this track to play to your child in utero. Now, I want this right now. Because my whole life, I'll just be straight up honest with you, I've been trying to get back up there ever since I got pushed out.
Right.
I like, even when I have sex with a woman, I have these weird fantasies that if I push hard enough, maybe she'll be like that Scarlett Johansson girl from
Lucy,
Body of Skin, or whatever that movie was, where I can just get sucked up inside her and I can just be back in that comfortable space.
Sure.
And my umbilical cord will reattach and I'll just thump. Yeah. So
that's and that is which album is that? Because it's not Meditation and Cosmic Journeys. That is Puer ad Somnum.
Yeah,
Puer ad Somnum, which means sleep child in Latin. That is actually an album that I wrote for my son while he was in utero. So the sounds of the baby's heartbeat in utero and everything is actually him. He was recorded on an album before he was ever in the world. I violated his rights that much, Manu. Sorry about that consent, kid.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't get a signature, you little.
Yeah. You cost me a week of work, dang it. This is the best payoff I could get. So, it does take you back to that. And that's kind of the idea, is being able to return back to that, being able to give people who have, that one was specifically made for people with racing minds, people, to help people go into deep sleep, and to help infants specifically sleep.
I think I've got to order that one, because I did a whole bit on this where I was like, why doesn't Elon Musk or somebody like that invent the actual like adult womb that we can just sleep in every night? It sounds like you've done it.
Like a really huge ostrich pillow that you can just climb inside
you
of.
Can just climb inside of.
Just tauntaun it.
But it sounds like you've done it. You play the beat, and maybe part of that helps you, relax. And the relaxingest of the relaxingest, is that a word?
It is now.
The most relaxing place in the world, which has got to be the womb. I would.
You woke up in America this morning, my friend. You can say anything you want.
I can say whatever the fuck I want.
Right.
Although all these snowflakes will cancel me for it. I've been canceled so many damn times. Also, just to state for the record, and just get off the subject for a second, I am not a liberal. I am not a conservative. I am something straight down the middle. I'm an American. I believe in some conservative thought. I believe in some liberal thought. And I think most of us are just like that. So why don't we start getting along instead of letting these social media demon technologies suck us down rabbit holes to the point where we can't even talk to each other and find common ground. All right. Well, moving on from there.
That's just it, though, is that, we even our brains want to entrain into that. And it is a fight. It is hard, and it's hard to live a non-cortisol injected existence.
How these people who want to use a computer to communicate with people, but not to research?
Well, that's absolute truth.
So what are some frequencies that can negatively affect our body that you know of?
Well, I mean, there, of course, as we talked about earlier, extreme microwave frequencies, like even our cell phones to an extent. There was some great studies done. Right? There were some great studies done a few years ago here in the States, and I want to say in Canada as well, on Wi-Fi networks, and how Wi-Fi networks were actively causing fatigue in metal and concrete in buildings faster than usual.
Wow.
Because you're actively sending a vibrating signal through that wall to reach another wall. Like,
they don't like to vibrate. Metal doesn't like to vibrate.
No, it really doesn't. And when you're talking micro vibrations, things like that, like it, even to think of the world outside of our tiny little slice, because like I said earlier, 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. That's our range of hearing. Our range of sight is about 450 nanometers.
Oh, he's talking meters.
Very tiny when you're talking the scale of the electromagnetic spectrum.
So help me out.
We actively see with our eyes
is
so tiny
compared to what
so tiny
really is out
there's an entire universe that exists out there that we literally cannot see.
But
that affects us.
When you play that sound of things looking at you, it probably is over there.
It very well could be.
It could be, yeah. You know what? I'm going to do this because my other co-host, besides the beautiful Mala Morrigan, he always says he always relates to a petri dish, and what does he call it? The little thing that floats around in the petri dish, and it only has one sense. It can only touch.
The amoeba.
Yeah, the amoeba.
The amoeba.
Yeah. And so he says this every week. He does this metaphor. The amoeba only has one sense, but think about human beings. We only have 5. I would argue 7 or 8, but we only have 5. Think how many things we would see about our own reality if we had 20 senses, if we had 30 senses, 40 senses. We are very much like that amoeba. We have no real idea what our reality is.
Yeah. No, and here's a little thought experiment for you, because let me bring these images up. Here we go. Here's a couple images that I actively took at Proctor's Ledge. Proctor's Ledge is where the actual hangings happened in Salem, Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
You can see there all of the plaques for each person that was persecuted. Now, I'm an extreme AV nerd, folks. I have like full resolution, full spectrum cameras. What you're looking at here is a picture taken with a Canon camera. Here's a picture taken with the exact same model Canon camera with all of the filters stripped for astrophotography and other use. So you are looking at its full range of infrared and ultraviolet capabilities. That is the exact same image with the filters stripped off.
Mm-hmm.
So
wait a second. What?
The
camera's
like,
is the camera in the same position?
No.
Yep, pretty much. Slightly
Pretty much.
off.
Just
I had to move because of a car.
You're really freaking me out there. Okay.
But yeah, there's a whole different way that the world is viewed there. A whole different way. And when you start looking at things like parrots, that kind of like they actively see into that range. That's closer to the way that your cat sees the world.
Right.
So when you start talking about people like my guests previously that I've had on, like Maureen Seberg that writes for Psychology Today, she's a tetrachromic. She sees not only red, green, and blue, but yellow with the cones of her eyes. So she has a whole nother million colors that she sees.
No, there's humans that can see much
There
better.
are tetrachromic humans that basically see the same way a parrot does. They have a whole nother million color palette. Like that cool television that Samsung tried to come out with a few years ago that was 4 colors.
Realistic.
Yeah, but it was like, but you got to shoot
like
with
that.
a 4-chip camera too. So we got to change everything in the industry to make it happen.
Yeah.
But there are people out there like that.
So
who
she
actively
sees
see
like
that.
she's
like
just
1 in
coming onto
100
mushrooms.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like 1 in 100, like 1 in 2-3 million people see like that, you know? So yeah, like there's a whole nother world out there, a whole nother color palette that we cannot see or process. And it's right there adjacent to us.
So you're getting into a whole nother color palette, a whole nother frequencies that we can't hear, sights that we can't see. So that shifts us in a little bit to the paranormal. And I want to hear, before we get into the paranormal, a little bit, and I know we're running late, but a little bit about ancient cultures and their use of frequencies.
Yeah. Well,
can you tell us a little bit about ancient cultures and what they knew?
One of my favorite examples is I had the great opportunity as a kid when I was like 19 years old to spend a semester in Europe. And we spent 10 days in Greece and went to Delphi and got to see the theater there. Went to the theater of Epidaurus, and to see an outdoor amphitheater, like as an audio engineer now, we have crazy technology. Like when you go to somewhere like Red Rocks Amphitheater, like there's a software that you hit set up a microphone and you reference it and it will heat map the whole place and show you like you need more volume in this speaker pack over here so that those people 200 feet that way hear the same thing as these people here. All that kind of stuff. My professor went down to center stage, took out a wooden match while we were 100 yards up, lit it, and it sounded like he was right next to us.
Oh, that's so cool.
Zero amplification, nothing but the physics of the space.
And how they built the space.
Yes, and how they built the space. And when you start looking at things like Stonehenge, where when you stand in particular spots, the sound resonates at other rocks and other spots. So it's like they were used as a form of amplification during rite. When you go to places like Manoa, the island of Manoa,
where the labyrinth was, and Theseus, and the Minotaur,
and where the huge cart tracks are, things like that. There is a chamber there with spirals carved in it, all kinds of things, that quite literally the resonant frequency of that chamber is theta range. Like that's the range associated with like auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations. Like that's the range where your eyeball starts vibrating and you start seeing things.
So they would use it as a spiritual place to
they
see
would
into the
use it as a
spirit
place
world.
that, like, whenever you're chanting in there, that's what the room resonates at. So whoever's there, that's what you're going to be experiencing. Welcome to the initiation rite.
Wow,
You
how
know,
much are
just
we missing with all the tech we have
that.
now?
Well, and that's the thing that we think they needed all kinds of help. And don't get me wrong, I'm a believer that we have a large hominid species roaming the woods of North America and beyond. I'm a believer that we have alien species, intergalactic, interdimensional, all kinds of things. However,
I think it's very likely.
humans are ingenious people. We are ingenious. We come up with all kinds of solutions for all kinds of things. And this seems to be something that was definitely known pretty well across the world.
Since almost the beginning.
Yeah. And
but why are they hiding it so much? Why is it so hidden to most of us now? And even using these frequencies, I would argue, to keep us away from these secrets and keep us away from the spiritual realms and the soothing realms and to keep us in the maze. I guess just to keep the slave class moving, right?
There's part of it, sure. It's kind of the whole concept of why targeted individuals. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Why torture people with it? Why torture people that aren't military, that aren't involved with this, that are just regular Joes walking down the street that work at friggin' Dunkin' Donuts, man?
Because they want us to be okay with having our dollar taxed 13 times so that our dollar is actually a dime in our pocket. Well, they're starting to. I had a friend, actually the producer of this show, Cassie. He told me that in Colorado they were thinking about, it was Colorado, they were thinking about taxing Social Security and disability. So they're taxing a program that is paid for by our tax dollars.
You already pay a federal tax on your Social Security.
No.
You pay an income tax on Social Security that you already.
But the disability patients
save it to begin it.
No, but the disability patients are also being taxed on their disability.
I wouldn't doubt that one bit. It's still an income,
and it's a made-up dollar with nothing backing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
It's interesting because when you start looking at ancient civilization, when you start looking at these things, this was stuff that was typically passed down by the high priests. Common people took place in ceremony, things like that, in large grand ceremony. But when it came to initiation, when it came to those things, those were typically secreted or occulted by the select few and by not necessarily ruling class, but by the religious leaders, by those that would be able to understand that and be able to translate it to the common man, be able to use it for the common man. Even the idea of the stars at night, things like that. There's a reason why we are not as connected to this stuff as they were, Manu. And that's because we are not nearly as connected to the world around us. Our grandparents grew up at a time where it's kind of like the big freeze that happened here in Texas a couple years ago, that took down the grid, and people are like, oh my God, the Texas grid can't handle this. And it's like, oh my God, the last time this happened, we didn't have a grid. Let that one sink in. Like electricity didn't exist the last time this happened. That's why it happened. Our grid is made to handle 120-degree Texas summer heat, not below freezing temperatures. If you go to Maine, it's made to take below freezing temperatures and not 120-degree summer heat. If you had 10 days of 120-degree heat, they'd have blackouts too. You can't make equipment that does both extremes. That's not how equipment works.
And so he does.
Okay. So I have 3 more questions for you.
Yes.
And then do we have any callers that want to ask Chris Jordan some questions, Cassie? Because we're going way over time.
Yes, we do. We have 3 people lined up at the moment. And if anybody else would like to join us, click the link.
Okay. I know I've gone over time, so
that's
some
okay.
people have probably bowed out. But I'm super interested in this. So F my listeners. I love you guys. I do. But, I'm going to hog this. So why did you begin the Curious Realm? Why did you start your show, The Curious Realm?
I began the show as I was telling you pre-show. The show began under another moniker. It began under the name Dudes and Beer. And the whole concept was the idea, much like we've said numerous times in this interview, we lack discussion. What we have is, for some reason, a whole bunch of people that want to convince people of paradigms. We have forgotten how to talk to each other as a people. America was founded by a bunch of people, be it a pig farmer, the mayor, the local reverend, everybody hung out at the public house. Right. And they, despite different walks of life, despite different religious backgrounds, they all agreed we don't want that. So how do we make that not happen together? And it didn't matter what you politically believed, if you were Whig or Republican, or didn't matter. If you needed a cord of wood, Manu or Mala, I gave it to you in the winter. If I needed food to feed my family, you gave it to me. Didn't matter what political sign I had on my lawn. And somewhere we've lost that. So it became the idea of these discussions, be they hard, be they whatever, we need to be willing to have. I don't care if it's human trafficking. I don't care if it's targeted individuals. We need to be willing to have the conversation.
Yes.
We need to be willing to peel it back and talk about it.
And actually, that's part of their programming right now.
Yes.
Is don't talk about things that are
the didactic.
Don't talk about things that are dangerous. Don't risk yourself. But we need to have these discussions, and we've become so polarized and so forever those in power have tried to separate us with skin color, with politics, with all sorts of different things,
gender,
to divide and conquer, gender, blah blah blah. Okay, so you started the Curious Realm to start.
To start conversations about things that sometimes make people uncomfortable, but they matter. Like we got to talk about human trafficking, man. It's in our backyard. I'd love to say it's not.
Right.
It is, and it's frightening. And it's there. But the more we decide not to talk about it, and it kind of takes me back to when I was a kid,
You're not like a QAnon guy though, are you?
No.
Okay, good.
No. But
because there's
even if I was,
we still need to talk about it.
We still need to talk about it. It's interesting because sure, Pizzagate, not really a thing. However, the rest of the stuff in those Podesta email links, real funny how they still didn't deny the rest of that stuff.
Podesta,
they were real ticked about how those emails got leaked, but they didn't deny the rest of it.
No. They were on the planes, Podesta and Clinton, and that guy was killed in his jail cell.
Were there.
You know what I always wonder about is Giselle. What's Giselle doing? Was she like CIA? Where's she at right now?
Maxwell.
I have held a long-held hypothesis with my show, because I've followed the Epstein thing for a long time. I am pretty well convinced that he is in full on federal protective custody.
Oh, you think they got him out?
I think that he is actively like in basically what would equivalent to like a CIA black site, something like that, where he's busy spilling beans.
You think so?
It was either that or
you don't think he's like,
or you're going down, one of the two. And I think it's pretty much the same thing with Jill. Like, if anything else, that was the case. But I think there's been a lot of things that have come out and a lot of things that have come to light still, and they're still coming out.
Why is
and even now with the stuff with Puff Daddy and things like that? I've had a lot of listeners ask me about that. Like, what's your opinion? I'm like, they rarely levy the charge of human trafficking and don't get a guilty verdict.
Yeah.
Even Epstein was guilty. He just had the money enough to be able to get a sweetheart deal because he had good lawyers and money.
A sweetheart
but that don't mean you ain't guilty, man. You were guilty.
All right.
And they rarely levy that charge without it being guilty.
Yeah. So give me. There's all these other albums, man, that I haven't said. Let's tell some people where to go to grab your music, and so people can chill out, people can get untargeted, people can sleep better, etc. Give curiousrealm.com, artofchristopherjordan.com.
You can download if you're a Roku user.
NODISA is
no disassemble.
Oh, no disassemble.
No disassemble.
That's simple.
As
no
in Johnny
disassemble.com. Cool.
Yes. Yeah, that's much more my actual like lo-fi electronica music, things like that.
So no disassemble.com is your lo-fi electronic like rockin' music?
Like chill out music, that kind of stuff.
And the other stuff, where do we go to get that?
All the meditation music is all available at Art of Christopher Jordan. You can also download if you're a Roku user, you can download the Curious Realm app on Roku, and it's got actually like all the videos that you see over my shoulder and everything over here on my screen are all chakra meditation videos, things like that. That it has all of that on there. Everything else. So yeah, it's an utterly free Roku app with tons and tons.
When you came on in the beginning, I had no idea that you were going to be into chakras and all, and the amazing things that
it's all vibration, man.
It's all vibration and reflection, right?
We are all just a vibratory frequency that is holding together some physical particles. Never forget, it is our vibration that is conscious, not the physical particle.
Dig it. I'm gonna have that quote on next week, and Tyson's gonna have to guess it. So let's let a few people in to talk to Christopher Jordan, who's our first guest.
Up first, we have Zach.
Zach on the line. Hey, Zach, how are you? Zach, what's happening?
Zach,
I'm vibrating.
Oh no! Dum.
Sorry, I'm vibrating.
You're making me dizzy, man.
See, you see how the smallest of frequencies can fuck with you.
It's pretty much it.
Really, yeah. I don't know. I mean, actually, it kind of makes sense because, like, you know how when people start yawning, and then you get the simple urge to yawn.
Yeah,
so it's kind of
subtle suggestion. And that's just it. Much like any magician, it's not the grandiose gesture; it's the tiny little bitty one that makes things happen. Same thing with brainwave.
Yeah, it's fascinating. All this stuff's pretty fascinating. But like, I guess my question is, what is your thoughts on like the psychotropic drugs and the increased like manner of how they're using mental health and psychology nowadays to kind of influence suggestive thinking and themes like that?
I would definitely tend to. We have an over medication crisis in our country. Instead of actively giving people mental health help and giving them tools for their toolbox, we're just giving them a box to put their toolbox in, saying keep your toolbox safe. Here you go. And yeah, a lot of it comes down to treating symptomology, not having a whole patient mentality when it comes to such things. And yes, unfortunately, it does lead down a lot of bad paths and can lead a lot of. I'm not an advocate for non-medication. Let me get that absolutely clear. I'm an anxiety sufferer. I'm on medication daily for my anxiety. Yeah. I don't recommend anybody that needs medication go without medication. But in addition to that, you also need to know how to balance yourself. And yes, there are tons of people, and oddly enough, as you were mentioning earlier, Manu, about especially shooters, things like that, especially when you're talking like you are, Zach, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, that kind of thing. The two of them can be married rapidly, and unfortunately can lead to bad things. The whole thing that got me on onto the world of targeted individuals and the work of Dr. John Hall to begin with was when I worked on broadcast and found out about his work while tracking down the story of Navy shooter Aaron Rodgers, the guy who shot up the naval yard with his ELF gun that he had, where he had, "This is my ELF rifle," engraved into the side of his rifle, and started complaining about hearing voices, things like that. And yeah, even the nice single mother that was shot by Secret Service out in front of the White House for going down the wrong way numerous times, and she thought that she heard the voice of Obama telling her to do things.
Oh, no.
Stuff like that. So are they? I don't know. But there's definitely a huge problem with over medication in our country, and unfortunately, especially when it comes to our vets,
That is
so
sad.
many things happen way too late.
Can I spit in here, since this is my show, Zach? As far as hallucinogenics go, psilocybin, natural hallucinogenics, psilocybin, DMT, even MDMA, which is not a natural hallucinogenic. I am so happy that psilocybin, ayahuasca, things like this have been de-demonized.
Yes.
Back in the beginning of the drug war with Nixon, these drugs were demonized, and they were called satanic, and they were called evil, and they would ruin your mind. I actually think that some of these clinics that are going to open and start treating people with psilocybin under a safe dose and under a safe place where you take it, in the last few years, it's been incredibly positive for people. It's been incredibly positive for people with PTSD, bipolar, social anxiety, fear of death. The dead and dying have found ways to let go and be happy to go to the next place. I think, and believe me, since I was 11 years old, that was the first time I ate a hit of acid. I've probably taken 1,000 hits since. I've eaten mushrooms like they were going out of style. I used to go up to the woods every year to the Rainbow Gathering to eat as much acid and take as much ayahuasca and DMT as I could in the month that I would spend up there, just to key myself into the spiritual reality of this incredible DNA universe that we live in down here on Earth. So I'm just glad that these drugs have been undemonified, if that's a word. It is now, because there are a lot of drugs out there that are horrible. Speed, heroin, but there's definitely a purpose for them. And I for me, I just wish that the drug war could be somehow over, and we could teach people the real effects of these drugs, the real dangers, the real positives of these drugs, and all drugs, instead of demonifying or putting people in jail and making them, our slave. People are still going to jail for years and years and years, even life, for marijuana in this country. It's ridiculous. That's my 2 cents.
And especially when you start looking at indigents, and that's just it. Like, remembering the fact that mushrooms are not a drug. Marijuana is not. Drugs are manufactured. They are distilled. They are synthesized. That is the definition of a drug. Anything else, if you are taking a plant and steeping it in water for a little while, then drinking it, that's a tea. That is an indigent. That is not a drug. I'm sorry. It's gone through no chemical process in any way, shape, or form other than cooking. You've cooked it. That's it. So these things have been used. Even the idea of ibogaine. I used to have a guy on my show regularly from an ibogaine clinic, and the fact that they are using African ibogaine to help people get over, and sometimes in one dose, heroin, helping them get over heroin addiction. Years, like 20-year heroin addicts, gone.
I've
one
never
dose.
heard of that.
You've never heard of ibogaine? It's
it's
legal in
absolutely
England.
incredible.
It's legal in South America. It's not legal in America because 70% of people that take it after one dose actually are cured from heroin addiction.
Really?
I don't know why they don't legalize it here. I do know.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's hard when you're selling opiates on every corner.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just it though, is that we have lost our way when it comes to that. We have lost our connection, that deeper connection to the world around us. The idea that, yes, plants are there for us. We've used them for thousands of years to great, fantastic success, you know? So yeah. It's one of those, be safe, be smart. Don't misuse things, you know, use them for the purposes for which they were created and found.
And especially in the beginning of this new world that has legalized mushrooms and Molly and psilocybin, et cetera, to treat these different things that they're, you know, be careful about the clinic you go to. Check it out. You know, see what they're using.
Especially when it comes to ceremony, things like that. Especially when it comes to toad ceremony. That kind of stuff. There was a huge rash of that a few years ago in Florida with a bunch of, you know, toad DMT shamans.
When they were licking toads? No.
Well, I mean, smoking the DMT from the toads the way that they do, but
it's not smart.
DMT not done properly, it's dangerous.
The toads secrete a type of DMT.
It's
everything in the world has DMT in it.
Thing.
But you want to get the bark from South America.
Well, yeah.
You don't want to lick a toad.
There are toad shamans. Those have been used in Mexico for millennia, all kinds of stuff. It's a different form of DMT. But once again, the dosage has to be proper and it has to be done right. Because if it's not
don't licking toads, folks.
Don't just go angering toads and licking them. Precisely. And that was like a lot of people have been saying, like, oh, I'm an ayahuasca shaman. Well, no, you went and you bought some mimosa vericosa, like from Brazil online.
Yeah,
you are not an ayahuasca shaman. There is a vast difference from somebody that knows the actual ceremonies and songs and everything else, and somebody who's just making some tea and telling you that they're a shaman in their backyard.
Or licking
don't just go angering and licking toads. It's not smart. Or smoking toads.
What do you think, Zach?
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, we could make this a Family Guy episode and just start licking toads.
Hey, look, I've always wanted to do
Night Ranger, man.
Yeah, man. One of these shows, we'll play all of Chris Jordan's binaural theta beats. We'll all eat mushrooms and we'll do a show.
I will tell you right now, in the world of No Disassemble, there are a couple of albums such as Psychonaut, which were fully
recorded
in one night over experience.
Psychonaut was a great
there are some interesting tracks in there on Psychonaut where I'm actively using a machine that is reading my brain waves and interpreting them into the synthesizer. As I start to trip, my brain is actively driving the synthesizer. Then I take that track and watch it in a visualizer while I'm recording the next track. So the next track is like the sum of my brain's response to watching and listening to the previous track. So it's like as the song goes on, my brain begins to trip and starts writing different and weirder music. It's absolutely wild.
Waves, frequencies, and particles creating reality.
That's it.
All right. Who's next?
Thank you for the question, Zach.
Yeah.
All right. Up next, we have Katie.
Thanks, Zach. Nice to see you, man.
Oh, I just lost Paula.
Oh, that's okay.
Katie, how are you?
Katie.
Good morning, England.
I am doing absolutely fabulous. It's lovely and dark here, so I'm happy. But no, I'm not ashamed to say this. I absolutely love you. The things that you have been talking about tonight, especially when it comes to body frequencies, chakras, I am very much into all that. I realign my chakras all the time. I meditate with crystals. I use frequency healing all the time. Yeah, my crystals are all the way over there on my altar.
It's in my hand constantly.
But no, I use a lot of frequencies for healing mainly, and attempts at sleep. Because I have fibromyalgia and I also have extreme insomnia. And I mean, obviously, as you know, crystals have their own electromagnetic frequencies. We can connect them with our own energies, and especially with the frequency sounds, it can pack a punch. But nothing seems to work for my insomnia. I can be awake, and I've tried all different frequencies, and sometimes certain ones will help a little bit, but I can be awake for like 5 days in a row with only like 2 hours sleep either side. And I was just wondering what you would recommend.
I am a big believer in 7.8 hertz. Schumann resonance is hands down your friend. Getting reconnected with that heartbeat of Earth. It is way down in the cycle range. It is probably a good third of the rate at which we see and hear things typically. I'm a big believer in much like screen time, where like, try cutting your television or your screen or your computer off a good hour, 2 hours before you go to bed. Make it book time or music listening time, something like that. And probably about an hour before bedtime, is an hour into that time, is when you want to start that therapy session with frequencies, and that way, once again, your brain
literally
starts to generate that
back in.
Yeah. And that's just it. It's the fact of regularity is key, much like getting to the gym. Like if you only do leg day 2-3 times a month, it's going to hurt every time you do leg day, like every time. So you need to kind of work on your legs a few days a week, a little bit a day, that kind of stuff. And then, baby steps take time. Understand that it will take time. Busy brains are busy brains. Like, even I sleep with this music in my bedroom. It's pretty much the only media that plays in my bedroom is binaural beat and frequency therapy music. That's it. But even then, I have restless nights. I have busy brain nights where I wake up in the middle of the night and just start scrawling design of a rack of gear or something like that I've just seen in a dream, and I can't get back to sleep now. Or I can't get myself to sleep. And that's very hard to hear that you deal with that, Katie. I'm so sorry to hear that. How long have you dealt with the insomnia part of things?
Since roughly about 2012, but it only got really bad in 2000, like the back end of 2019, and it's just gone downhill since. I have tried everything. I have tried no technology at all in my bedroom. This is what I don't understand. I can meditate. I can go into trance. I can astral project. I can't bloody sleep.
Yeah.
And I do have a busy brain, especially at the minute, but I will meditate. I will realign my chakras. I will play the frequencies. And all right, sometimes it is my pain levels that keep me awake, but
sure.
I can be so relaxed and my brain can just completely switch off.
Have you tried boinking?
What was that, Manu?
Have you tried boinking? Taking
yes, it doesn't work. Not anymore. It used to.
Yeah, that always gets me to sleep, but I'm a guy.
Well, and in all sincerity, though, especially with fibromyalgia, things like that, it can be very hard. It can be very disturbing to the regular patterns of life to begin with. And especially can be worrisome and can rent the spare space in your mind a lot, Katie. I know quite
I
a
only
few
joke
people
because
who suffer with that.
my wife suffers from the same thing, so it's easier to laugh than to cry. But I'm gonna, I'm not trying to sell Chris Jordan shit because I'm not a disinformation.
You don't know
guy.
me.
I don't know this guy at all, but I'm interested, so I'm gonna check out some of these albums and see if they help.
Honestly, the one I would recommend more than anything else, Katie, would be Music for Targeted Minds. That is made specifically for people who sleep is what they are searching for. There's like, once you get into the point of sleep being all right, sleep coming a little bit easier, definitely throw in things like Puer ad somnum, something like that, to help calm you even further and get you into the depths of sleep. But give Music for Targeted Individuals a try. I love hearing people's feedback. I've gotten some really, really good feedback from people who are insomniac and have that kind of issue. Because once again, that is a huge problem in the targeted individual community. So that was one of the things that I was specifically targeting with that piece was insomnia and not being able to get out of a thought pattern, not being able to get out of not being able to sleep. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, I suffer really bad brain fog as well, and like because of the fibro and the insomnia, sometimes I struggle to brain and form words. It's
a brain.
It's ridiculous. I mean, these lot can tell you some of the words I've come out with when I can't remember the name of something. It's just ridiculous.
It's true.
Oh yeah, I forgot the name of the microwave, so I called it the food warmer upper.
That's much easier that way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So much shorter.
I have followed you on Spotify. Just
all
now,
right.
So I'm going to listen to all of your stuff.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I would love some feedback. I'd love to know how it works out for you.
Definitely.
Yeah. How do you have a place people can contact you, Chris?
Absolutely. There's a contact form right there on Art of Christopher Jordan. As a matter of fact, if you need custom music, like I've got a targeted individual I am working with right now who loved the original albums and is like, this part of the song specifically works great for me, and has ordered an absolute custom track to be made for them. So those
a ton of this.
All kinds of things. So right. Art of Christopher Jordan, you can contact me. You can contact me at Curious Realm. I'm available even on Facebook, folks. So I'm a pretty affable guy. I contact just about everybody.
Cool. All right, we've got one last one last guest.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thank you, Katie, so much. Didn't mean to cut you off, but we are 40 minutes overtime, and I've had fun with this show. Thanks for sticking around, Chris.
Absolutely, no worries.
The last question for Mr. Chris Jordan.
Hey, Dave.
Well, hello, Since Left Wishes here. What's up, everybody? I took notes this time. So there's a lot of stuff. First off, I want to give props to Cassie for the new logo, the updated logo for Dangerous Thoughts. It looks pretty tight. I actually even have it behind my shoulder here, so yay for that. But there's like so many things. But Manu, you mentioned that there's something out there that's making you stupid.
Oh yeah, it's called YouTube. Hey, if anybody. It's called YouTube. If anybody's still watching and we have the numbers that we usually have around this time, can you guys like and subscribe and just take the time to do that? I forgot to say that in the beginning.
Yeah, please.
Go ahead,
I was going to mention that too. So please do like, subscribe, follow on YouTube, follow on Facebook, follow on Twitter.
We're gonna start selling you T-shirts and buttons. You don't want that. All right, go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
So I'm just looking at some of my notes. I was a journalist before I got into broadcast journalism, so some of my chicken scratches I can't even recognize it 30 minutes later. But So you were talking, Chris, you were talking earlier about that your brain will often make its own inputs at some point. There was
Sure.
one time when I in 2017 I flew out to visit a friend in Western New York, and we did a road trip to Boston. And I did the entire trip from Boston back to essentially Jamestown on my own. Everyone was passed out in the car. It was 10, 12 o'clock at night. My brain was making up crap that was on the side of the road. I was like, there was like canyon walls and trees the size of mountains.
Yeah.
I just like, what the? And of course, it's all flat out there. So I'm just like, what the frick is my brain doing? But I mean, I kept on pushing on because everyone else was asleep. Allergies, sorry.
That.
It's okay.
What was that, Mala?
I said it's better to stay awake when you're driving. Yeah, that's good.
Oh yeah, I say, but at this point, I've been driving for 12, 13 hours, and it's like, yeah.
No delta beats or binaural beats when you're driving.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
absolutely, don't listen to binaural beats while you're driving.
Well, unfortunately, that's kind of sort of what I was doing. That's what I got kind of going right now. Is just my binaural beats is trance music, so melodic trance, low tempo trance.
Totally.
Not like the drum and bass and like Who's Afraid of 138 and all the things like that. The high energy music. That's just I want chill music. I'm a blonde with ADHD. And so I got 2 strikes against me, as I always like to joke, and that gets a joke from my customers that I've been giving Lyft rides from for the past couple of weeks. But
Dave, what the fuck are you rambling on about? What's your question for fucking Chris Jordan?
Well, I think
working on it.
Let me look at my notes.
It's getting there, man.
I'm sorry.
I'm getting there.
Somebody doesn't have a storytelling podcast.
There must be a question. There must be a question in those notes.
I took a ton
Oh my
of notes.
God! Look at all those notes.
Compared to last week, it's like a novel.
He was listening.
Yes. But
okay, well, you go through your notes and look for a question. Next week's guest is Leslie Michelle Clark, a world famous hypnotist and actually hypnotherapist that Chris Jordan knows. So if you have any weird memories that you want to dig out of the oily black depths of your disgusting brain, you should contact this woman. Go to her office in Toronto and have her pull those memories out. Maybe you were butt plugged by an alien, or you've seen a ghost, or you've had something traumatic that you want removed. Come listen to this woman talk to us and see if you like her. And then maybe you could even go see her in Toronto. Yeah. Mala, if you've had some traumatic shit happen, you got bruises all over your body from your boyfriend, and you don't remember him beating you up, why don't you just go over there?
That's bad karma. No, thank you.
Hey, very bad karma. What the heck, man?
She said her boyfriend abused her, but she was kidding. I think. I hope.
No, but you're talking about
#2 real.
Go ahead, Mala.
Yeah,
but Leslie Michelle Clark will take away your bruises with hypnotherapy next week. And the following weekend, we have Sonia Agora, who is an unapologetic agorist. If you don't know what an agorist is, it's kind of like an anarchist, but better.
I have a message from her, actually.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
Really?
If you don't know what that is, you should absolutely come. That's 2 weeks from now. She'll tell us how we can live and overthrow our government peacefully, how we can get these chains off of our necks that the federal government has placed upon us, and fuck off. That's Sarah.
Bastards.
Sarah Agora.
So, Dave, what was your question?
Dave, did you find a question?
Yeah, I'm just thinking because, like you, I come from an audiovisual background. I spent several years working at a small market television station, but I've also delved into the paranormal with the Taps Family Group in Seattle before I moved to Colorado. What are your thoughts on when it comes to picking up EVPs in paranormal investigations where the human ear doesn't hear it, but the audio recording does? Because my experience is I've picked up some crazy shit just to put it mildly.
Yeah. Now there's a couple things. Especially whenever you're talking about the original EVP, when you're talking about like the Black Lotus recordings, things like that happened way back in the early 1900s, which is kind of a lot of what the new Spirit boxes lean on, because those originally used like white noise from radios moving back and forth, things like that. But a lot of that operated off of the principle that the ghost was able to manipulate the weak magnetic field of the record head and thereby place artifact on the actual recording medium. Now, whether or not that translates to ones and zeros of a digital recorder, I don't know. However,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I will say that much like with digital compression on phones, much like with digital compression on video, things like that, artifacts are sometimes created because the video will want to give you something that maybe is meh and maybe not, and when it comes to audio, especially smaller recorders, things like that, like really, really high-end recorders, 32-bit float, things like that, you're going to get a totally different record than you will off of like a Sony Palm recorder, something like that, which with the noise reduction, that kind of stuff could really be putting artifact in there when it's trying to delete the artifact. It's just the fact that the compression of the software in that tiny little device is not hugely fantastic. So you're saying when it comes to modern EVP, in theory, I have a couple of issues with some of it, because we are no longer manipulating a weak physical field. We're now talking a digital recording of ones and zeros, that's being manipulated, and that's something different. Now, like, there are people that will argue that technically it's still manipulating a weak magnetic field, just the one of the computer that's recording. Sure.
Yeah,
still manipulating a weak magnetic field of a microphone element, I suppose. But most of those elements have no magnet in them or anything like that. They are piezoelectric, something like that. So yeah, there's pluses, there's minuses. I am always of the mind of, because once again, I am a believer, my realm of evidence must be larger. My realm of proof must be larger, because I am a believer. It's got to be larger. Otherwise, I'm not taking anomaly into consideration.
Because
go ahead.
So hold on. So those incredible microphones, like these beautiful microphones, you would trust them to pick up something much better than one of these handheld recorders that may be just malfunctioning.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because you're talking about something that is physically moving. You're talking, kind of like the difference between a good LP and a CD. The prime example I give to most people as an audiophile and a recording engineer is, I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan. Know the album Shakedown Street backward and forward. If you go through and listen to it on LP, during the song Shakedown Street, there is a dude with a maraca about 30 feet that way from the studio microphone that is not there on the CD. It is compressed out as background noise.
Yeah.
It's so subtle.
Yeah.
It's all about things
records,
like that. And that's the thing, is when you're talking about a digital palm recorder, there are things that help boost the sound, things that help squash louder sounds, things like that. And that, unfortunately, much like MUFON would say about the photo from an iPhone, unfortunately, the photo from an iPhone is not an actual photo. There is tons of data in there that can be corrupted. There is tons of data in there that can be manipulated in wild and amazing ways.
See, so the way that the group that I was with that was affiliated with TAPS, whenever we had a digital audio recorder, we always had a separate microphone. For me, I can't believe it. I'm not wearing my hat tonight. I had a microphone clipped to my cap, and I was with a psychic team, in this house, and the psychic was saying, we're the only ones in here. And I got a response, no. And he said something else. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I got an additional response of sound like a little child saying, I want to play. And that first no was no means no.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy crap. And there was something playing with the dowsing rods in that room. And later on in the evening / morning, we were in there, and one of the leads on the team said, is there anything you want us to do to help? And my recorder was the only one in the team. If you're hearing weird noises in the background, that's just the dog chewing on a.
No worries.
Coda, shut up.
It's ghosts, Dave. It's ghosts. All right. So one last thing.
Coda, but no, but I just want to say, my recorder got only one in the entire group of about like 12 people. Then it was get out.
Wow.
Get out.
Of course, when
Why
I
do
listened
all
to that, I was just like,
get out?
Because they're sick of you.
Yeah.
But like 12 years later, I listened to it, and it sounded like, hello there.
Well, wait a second. Get out turned into hello there?
And
within 12 years, I don't know, but it's just like different perspective. I don't know.
And that is something to be considered. And that's something that I bring up, especially frequency wise on my show regularly, is, when you're preparing for an investigation, when you're preparing for those things, how often are you totally blank slate? How often are you not thinking about cases that you've heard about in the place? How often are you not thinking about I heard about this story that happened there? Things like that. So is it that there's something there, or is it the fact that you have now charged the area with the thought form and actively manifested the occurrence yourself?
Yeah, the group that I was with, they had specific. They had like a ritual that we did everything that we're here. We're not here to cast you out. We're just here to understand why you're here and what we can do to help. I mean, I won't go into details on some of the other investigation I was with, but someone grab my butt on that investigation.
All right, Dave Prime.
I'm just operating. I'm just
hang out with your ghosts.
Off the principle of we're out of time.
Yeah, we're out of time. I'm just going to ask you one more question before I thank you for coming. If you could pick 3 of the most interesting guests that you've talked to on Curious Realm and what you've learned from them, what would they be?
Dr. John Hall, hands down.
Yeah, you've said John Hall over and over and over again. Where do we get this guy's stuff?
You can find his books. They're readily available. Guinea Pigs, Technologies of Control. Is a fantastic one. That's a great primer into the world of targeted individuals and targeting technology.
Awesome. Say the title again.
Guinea Pigs, Technologies of Control.
Technologies of Control. Ooh,
yeah, and you can find him. You can find him under the exact same Facebook group name. He's pretty publicly available. His work is out there. He's been on all kinds of shows. He's absolutely awesome. Next to that, I would probably say Kathleen Martin has been some pretty incredible interviews, and to see her move her work from the world of hardcore MUFON field investigation and the world of MUFON experience or resource team to the world of the spiritual response of the experiencer and how experience changes people spiritually. Wow. is really interesting and fascinating. And she's like the niece of Betty and Barney Hill,
Oh, she's the actual niece?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool.
And just an amazing individual, absolutely awesome, and some really revelatory information that changes things. Aside from that, my man and remote viewing instructor, Lynn Buchanan. Lynn Buchanan. He is one of the people. He runs Remote Viewing Ranch. He is one of the people that the movie Men Who Stare at Goats is based on. He is one of the actual people from the government Stargate remote viewing program.
Okay, so he's been going all the way back to close to the beginning of controlling our brains with frequencies.
It's pretty wild. And there's even with my small amount of experience with remote viewing and doing remote viewing, it's mind blowing, man. It is.
Remote viewing is amazing.
Wild.
We did a very small
so
experiment. We did a very small experiment with remote viewing with Michelle Freed, and it was quite phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was quite phenomenal.
Even my first experience with it was like, wow. Like immediately, like my monitor gave me my coordinate, like CS1285. Something totally arbitrary. And immediately I texted her back, like, I see white truss. She's like, what? I'm like what I use in my industry to like fly lighting to the ceiling, but I see it powder coated white. And I don't know why. She's like, okay, keep that. Think about it. And like ended up, during my session, it was like, I see rocky terrain. It's very cold on one side, very hot on the other. I see things moving around, scurrying like ants from overhead. I see like really high energy, like emanating from the place, something like elevated up top. And now I see that white truss again. And it was the Apollo landing. The image of them up on the hill with the Apollo rover with the white truss with an antenna on it. And it's like, holy crap, dude. Yeah. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
wow.
Really cool.
Like the extreme temperatures of hot and cold in the same place.
Yeah.
Like, it was just basically like my skin's tingling right now just thinking about it.
Before we did the show
wild.
on remote viewing, Michelle had me on the way over to the studio go to different places and take pictures and then take video of these different places that I went to. And then we had like 5 or 6 guests try to tune in to that, to those pictures, and the stuff that they drew was pretty phenomenal. If you go, I mean, I've gone back and watched my own episode of Dangerous Thoughts just to see that again, because it was pretty wild. So I want to thank Chris Jordan. I want to thank all of our guests, Cassie Rumor, Mala. Thank you so much for guest hosting tonight instead of Tyson. You've been such a pleasure. I can't stand that I have to go back to Tyson next week. Oh, it's going to be so horrible. He's such a terrible person. Otherwise, yes, I want to thank Tyson Strasberg. I want to thank myself because I deserve it. And Chris, thank you for joining us. You're a great guest.
Absolutely.
Join us next week with, what's her name? Stupid iPhones.
Leslie Mitchell Clark.
Leslie Mitchell Clark next week. Hypnotherapist. We're going to get into hypnotherapy, hypnotism, and all the wild things that can come from that. Join us next week on Dangerous Thoughts.
Night, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Stay here.
Did you know you can grow your own food? Yeah, I know. It's crazy cool. You just put a seed in the ground and stuff grows. But some people seem to think that we grow our own food because it saves us money, when in reality it doesn't. It's actually very expensive to grow your own food and to raise your own meat. It's way more expensive than picking up a tomato from the grocery store. But that's not the reason we do it. We grow our own food, raise our own meat, become resilient in our communities because it is the single most powerful way to tell the government to go fuck itself. So grow a fucking carrot.
Take it to them. Ruining motivation to survive. Private is like a jungle holding rest of a nation. You couldn't hold me like a tongue. You need to last in the way. Hey, gorilla hearted. I beat in my chest to stay alive. Take it to them. Ruining motivation to survive. Private is like a jungle holding rest of a nation. You couldn't hold me like a tongue. You need to last in the way. Hey, gorilla hearted. I beat in my chest to stay alive. Hey.